Hi, everyone. I'm Marlie Hall. Welcome to the show that covers the culture like no other. Joining us today, a panel of experts to give us their unfiltered opinions. We have journalist Tony Anderson, music writer Ivie, rapper and actor Dyme-A-Duzin, who you might have seen in the Hulu series Wu-Tang and American Saga. Thank you for joining us. A number of trending topics to cover today, so let's jump right in. Things are looking up for Kaep. Colin Kaepernick's lawyer says the quarterback known for taking a knee has interest from 2 NFL teams. Attorney Mark Garagos didn't say which teams, but he did drop a few hints. Listen to this.
There are 2 teams that I think are in the hunt. One who is legitimately in need of a quarterback that had a very poor showing on Sunday and has got an owner that I don't think gives a shit. And the other is an owner that maybe does give a shit, but they still want to win and they're in the hunt.
So Kaepernick is also reportedly planning to host another private workout for NFL teams after last week's controversial event in Atlanta. Kaep's agent says that workout would likely take place during the NFL annual league meeting at the end of March in Palm Beach, Florida. So here's the big question I had. So if Kaep has interest from 2 teams, why have another private workout?
Well, let's go back before I answer your question. I don't know if he actually has interest from 2 teams, right? Because I think the NFL has effectively blackballed him.
But that's what his lawyer is saying.
Well, it's lawyer speak, right? He has to say that to sort of drum up some public interest with his client, but I don't see it. If it was, I would see Atlanta. I mean, it's a very black city. The owner, Arthur Blank, seems to be really, I wouldn't call him pro-black, but he definitely seems like he's down. Maybe Carolina, their quarterback is pretty terrible and they need somebody. But I think it's over for Kaep. And I love Kaep. I just think
So you think the lawyer's statement is just smoke and mirrors?
Yeah, it's posturing, right? This entire workout, this whole thing was a big circus from the jump. This wasn't a real thing. Why would you if you want to hire Kaep, if you want to put him on a team, then you have a team meet with him. For example, the Falcons can say, hey, Kaep, come to our workout, our facility, and we'll do a private workout. You don't have to schedule a workout week 10 of the NFL. Like, you don't have to do that. We're going to hire you or not. One or the other.
There you go. Well, do you think time is running out for Kaep? Can he realistically get signed at this point?
I feel like there's so many politics within it. Like, I look at another sport. I'm not too, so into football. I'm into, basketball, and I look at Melo. Melo is, Carmelo is not such a harsh example of how blackballing in the league could go, but, I think it's just all politics, and I just feel like the right thing needs to be done at the end of the day. Just, let the man play. He took a knee for injustice, and, let it be known that you guys at least support that. I don't want a bunch of smoke and mirrors and, people to be deterred of what the main focus is. It was injustice. Right. Let's do something about it.
Politics at play here?
Of course. Like you said, always optics, always politics. I think people lost sight of why Kaepernick kneeled in the first place and how that consequently lost his job. And it is a travesty when you think about it that way. He's a professional athlete, and he lost work because of his political views. That's the bottom line. So this whole circus of, is he going to get signed? Is there any repercussions to this media circus of him having transparency with the media at the workouts? Is there another workout? Are teams looking at? The fact of the matter is he does not have a job because he took a kneel to fight racial injustice and police brutality in America. And is the NFL posturing? Probably, in the same capacity that they're probably posturing with this Jay-Z collaboration that nobody knows what the deal is. So it is probably a lot of smoke and mirrors. We don't know anything, so it's very hard to comment. As third party, we're all speculating. Even reporters, there's such a rift in people trying to cover this because not much is made transparent. But at the end of the day, he lost work. That's an injustice. We don't know if he's going to get back in the game, to be honest.
But you keep calling it a circus. So does that mean that none of this will take him anywhere? He's not going to get signed?
As far as the NFL, I don't know. I think Kaepernick is probably in good standing with part of the public, which is black people. So I'm sure he can get deals and endorsements and continue on his career as an activist, as a public figure, I'm not so sure where the NFL falls into the trajectory of his career.
Tony, you were shaking your head.
Yeah, it's over. This isn't the first time. It's done. Let me tell you something. This isn't the first time we've seen this, right? John Carlos and Tommy Smith in the 1968 Olympics. You seen that iconic image, right? They were blackballed. You didn't see them do anything after that.
Yeah.
The first Colin Kaepernick was Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. He was a three-point shooter, and he stood for the national anthem, and he turned his back on it, and he said, excuse me for it. His house was burned down, and he was blackballed in the NBA. I think he plays in the Big Three now. You are not going to, there's a saying, the tools of the slave master will never be used to tear the slave master's house, right? The NFL is a racist organization, like most institutions in America. Why would they now hire a young black man who is now fighting racism and these other different things? They're not going to do it. They blackballed him for a reason. What Kaep is going to have to do is, just as the sister said, get his activism on, get his books on, get his public speaking on, take the money that he got from Nike, which, as much as I love Kaep, I'm a little skeptical.
Right.
I'm a little skeptical of the money. Anytime it's money, you know what I mean? I don't know, and I'm cynical. I kind of side out Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, you know what I mean? I don't know who I've seen, things that Barack Obama have done. I voted for Barack. I love Barack. But now I'm sort of like, was he really for the people? So I have a healthy dose of skepticism for everybody. But I love Kaep because regardless of if he's legit or not, he is talking about police brutality where other players are talking about fashion. I love Kaep for that. However, he's done in the NFL.
You think it's time for Plan B?
I think he should keep trying, but realistically, it's over.
Well, Kaep hasn't played professionally since 2016. It's looking like we may see him back on the field in the near future, although Tony doesn't think so. And I think that's a good thing. So freedom of speech didn't stop Kaep from getting sidelined, but it actually helped one racist teacher keep his job. Indiana University professor Eric Rasmussen is offending a lot of people, myself included, with his racist, sexist, and homophobic tweets. But university officials can't fire him because his tweets are protected by the First Amendment. Rasmussen, who's been at the school since 1992, posted comments on how black students are unqualified to attend elite universities, and the business professor is doubling down on his remarks. Here's his response.
If they're offended, that's their problem, basically. I'm willing to listen to arguments about why they disagree with me, but just saying I'm offended doesn't really impress me.
So this is a terrible look for Indiana University. Since they can't fire him, how can they ensure that students' grades are not affected by this professor's views?
First of all, Indiana has a high Republican population. So I don't think this comes as a surprise in that context. But in terms of this professor, I know that he was not fired because they gave an excuse along the lines of if he's not putting those politics into praxis in the classroom, then essentially it's not discrimination.
But they condemned his comments, though, to be fair.
They condemned his comments, but is that fair? Because he still has a job.
Right, because he's protected by the First Amendment.
Yeah.
So legally, they cannot fire him.
Mm-hmm. And they can't really take him to task on anything, or rather, they're not willing to, because they haven't. It's one thing to condemn for a public statement. It's another to have any type of real repercussions. I know they took some actions with the students being able to anonymously submit classwork.
The double-blind grading.
Yeah, but I don't know how far.
You don't think that's enough?
No, because at the end of the day, what if students feel like they are not operating in a toxic classroom space because they know that their professor hosts these certain political views on his private accounts, and that contributes to the type of work that they're able to do, that contributes to how they operate and function on the university campus, if they feel like this is happening under the institution's watch. You get what I'm saying? So all this is pretty arbitrary. Just because it's not black and white, they can't do anything, doesn't mean it's not going to have any tangible effects on students' performance. And is there a camera in the classroom every time this professor is teaching, it doesn't mean he's not putting certain things into practice. There's no way to check and balance that. So
Maybe the students have the power here, so maybe no one should enroll in his class. Would that do the trick?
Yeah, I feel like with someone with a mind state like that and a point of view like that, you don't want to even have him in the classroom.
You don't think he's fit to teach?
I don't think he's fit to teach, period. It's like, it's like an old-fashioned mentality, like you said, Indiana, Republican, and it's just like, nah, it's a new time. It's like, if that organization that he works for doesn't, like, do anything about it, that kind of shows how they think as well. And I feel like we're in a new day, and you can't have anybody with that mind state teaching youth.
But what if this were a black professor? Would it be seen differently?
Yes, I actually support this gentleman, right? He's an idiot.
The white professor.
Yeah, I do.
Tell me why.
I support his freedom of speech, right? I support his views are obviously trash, right? This dude's an idiot, and he's scary because he's an educated idiot. But just like you said, there are pro-black teachers, or professors rather, who come in and who have very strong points of views. There has to be some protection, right, of different opinions. For example, for me, comedians are the last line of defense, right? In this era that we live in this ultra-sensitive era, comedians should have the license to say things that we may or may not agree with. And I think college professors should also have the same thing. Do I agree with the things he said? This dude's an idiot. The things he said that there are more men geniuses than women. How do you even quantify that, right? The things that he said gay people shouldn't be allowed in academia. He said a whole bunch of things that are moronic, right?
But you're defending his right to say it.
I'm defending his right to say it. In a collegiate, especially with college kids, I think that there has to be a safe space for people to be able to say things that we may not agree with.
Are you defending his right to teach?
I am. Now, I wouldn't take his course, but as the sister just said, he's in Indiana, so I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of MAGA hats in his class. I wouldn't take it, but how many people are going to be like him who take an African American studies class that talk about Marcus Garvey, that talk about black people in a certain space? If they have to take that class, then, again, I'm not defending his actual statements, but his freedom of speech to be allowed to say that. And he isn't the first racist professor, and he won't be the last racist professor. We have racist teachers from kindergarten all the way up until master's programs, and that's why I implore so many more black people to get into education, because we have to have more diversity and more inclusion in schools teaching our youth. But to this actual point, I don't agree with his statement, but him being able to be free to say it, it is what it is.
Well, Rasmussen continues to defend his comments, but hopefully the university finds a way to get rid of him soon. Up next, retailer Victoria's Secret has taken a savage beating, and it's Wu-Tang forever, for real. We'll talk about the resurgence of all things Wu right after the break. Welcome back. So Victoria's Secret is not just out, it's over. The lingerie retailer is canceling its annual televised fashion show. The 2018 event drew the lowest ratings in 24 years, and company sales are declining. So here's a clip of their fashion show. But that show doesn't look anything like the annual fashion show from this new lingerie line. Take a look at this. Can you see the difference there? In recent years, Victoria's Secret has faced intense backlash for a lack of diversity. Meanwhile, Rihanna's brand Savage by Fenty has been praised for groundbreaking inclusivity and is reportedly beating Victoria's Secret in terms of average customer spend. This tweet, I think, sums up the stark difference. It says, a not-so-friendly reminder that ignoring consumers and their commentary on inclusion will ultimately become the nail in the coffin. Victoria's Secret had several chances to diversify their models, but they refused to do so. So when I look at those two fashion shows, they're two completely different parties. I don't know which one I'd rather be at, but Ivie, why can't Victoria's Secret keep up with people's changing ideas about what's sexy?
First of all, Victoria's Secret had a lot of issues before Rihanna and Savage Fenty came along. They've been criticized for years. The reason why they're failing is because they refuse to compromise on literally the easiest thing you can concede to.
Which is what?
Diversity and inclusion, it is not that hard. They have people sitting up in these corporate offices trying to answer the question of what they can do, and it is literally to hire people who are not the people you have already hired. It is not a difficult thing to solve, and it took something like Savage Fenty to offer some type of competition for them to realize that they have to recalibrate and kind of get rid of these antiquated ways that they approach beauty and fashion, but they're not gonna do it. One of the representatives released a statement saying that they're going to focus on new, exciting content and the different media. They're focusing on the medium as to which they're going to portray the same images, the same models, the same designs, the same standard, and they're not fixing the content. People are asking for models with different body types, different genders, different women of color. So Victoria's Secret is so behind because they just started essentially incorporating more women of color in 2018. They had 19 women of color. As far as diversity is concerned, that's like ABC 1, 2, 3. That's like the surface level of diversity is to hire someone who's not white. There's so many more different intersections that you can incorporate into your company, and they're just not doing so, and they're not willing to because the representative released a statement that garnered backlash saying that they're not going to hire trans people, and they're not going to hire voluptuous women, they're not going to hire curvier women. And that says it all, and then they backtracked on that
And that's
comment.
what people want to see.
Yeah, and they're refusing to do so when it's literally the answer to their problem.
Tony, you're a model. Does diversity sell in this case?
Diversity 100% sells, right? I think that the sister just hit on it's two major points that have caused Victoria's Secret to fail. The number one thing is actually Instagram. You don't have, back in the day, I remember when you had to wait for the Victoria's Secret model show and all of that other stuff to see models. You can go on Instagram right now and see models 24/7. You can pick up your phone now and see women who look better and are more scantily clad. More better. You're gonna say more better than the models on Victoria's Secret. And I think that another thing is, as you guys just pointed out, is diversity. In this very building, right? I used to host a show called Rip the Runway, and it was for BET, and it was because women of color were not given the same opportunities as other women. And so it had to be a fashion show that was for us, by us, you know what I mean? And
Right.
to still FUBU. And so we're living in 2019, where people do want to see more full-figured women, where people do want to see more women of color. There's models right now there's things right now that were frowned upon now that are lit. Like if you have vitiligo, you got made fun of. Now it's a model, her name is Winnie, what's her last name? Winnie Harlow.
Yeah.
She's popping now.
And beautiful.
She has vitiligo. So, there are things that were once considered, what would we call them? Like, the people were making fun of it or just unaccepted, right? That's the best word, right? That are lit now, that people are making money for. Victoria's Secret is still hanging on to the things of the back in the day of the Trump era, the Make America Great Again.
Mentality.
The old school mentality. They haven't gotten with the new day. They should have had Janet Mock or, what's the other transgender?
Laverne Cox.
Laverne Cox or
She was
somebody up
featured in
there.
a Rihanna show.
You know what I mean? But that is what people want in 2019. Whether you like it or not, this is a business. To go back to what we said with Colin Kaepernick, if people are saying we're not going to hire Kaep because it's a business and our viewers don't want to see that, well, this is what your viewers want to see. Whether you like it or not, this is what people want to see, and you're not giving them that. So they're going to go to Instagram or they're going to go to Rihanna. I think it's dope. Keep doing what you're doing and let Rihanna get her money, and it's going to be a changing of the guard.
But on the business end of it, if Vicky Secrets is dead, did Rihanna kill it?
Well, yeah, Rihanna's gonna prevail. She's gonna, fill in that void, any other, lingerie. I'm not no lingerie expert, but I'm sure there's other companies out there that could slide right in that lane and, do their thing, because you got to get with it to get left behind.
Right, there's room for other brands here.
Oh, yeah.
Does Fashion Nova have
Lingerie
lingerie?
brand?
Fashion Nova has a Halloween costume.
Fashion Nova is lit.
Hey,
But
look.
Rihanna didn't kill Victoria's Secrets because their sales declined in 2016. You know what I mean? And Rihanna came a little bit later, so they was already having issues. But she came along, so.
Victoria's Secret killed themselves, and Rihanna came along and said, okay, I'm going to revive this situation. Since y'all don't want to do it, I'm going to show you how it's done.
We're in a new day. People, we want to see us. Like, they want to see things that are more relatable to them. They want to, you know, we don't want to see like the pinup girl model, like that's old, man. We like the thick shorties, man. We like
Facts.
You feel me? Come on.
Remember when King Magazine? I remember King Magazine. Not Maxim, because that was still kind of like flatbacks. But it was like King Magazine, Straight Stunting Magazine. These were the magazines that featured black women, Latina women, women who had some more curvy assets. In Victoria's Secret, you had to be a size 0 straight up and down. And I think now people are like, this is what we want to see. And if you don't listen to the people, well.
There you go. Well, on behalf of thick shorties everywhere, I'm so glad to hear that. So in recent years, Victoria's Secret did have some black angels with natural hair and darker skin tones, but clearly consumers know the difference between a company that's truly inclusive and one that's casually diverse. So it seems like we're in the midst of a Wu-Tang renaissance. The group's manager says they're in talks to develop a Wu-Tang amusement park in Seoul, South Korea. Not many details about the theme park right now, but it's one of several recent projects based on the group, from a Showtime documentary and a beer being developed by Old Dirty Bastard's son called Young Dirty Brew, to the Hulu drama series Wu-Tang: An American Saga. Here's a clip featuring our guest, Dyme-A-Duzin.
I'm ripping rappers apart like a sheet of paper. Gun singing just like Anita Baker. I don't mean you're going to Montego Bay. When I say I'm singing to meet Jamaica, I mean you make a create a piece. See you later.
Yes, Dyme, you did that.
Hey, Cypher scene.
Yes. So you have the strongest Wu-Tang connection here. Why do you think there's such a resurgence in everything Wu?
Wu-Tang is hip-hop royalty. Wu-Tang is, you know, since the beginning until now, like a legacy that's always gonna live on. I feel like from the members, for what they did in hip hop, from like, you know, the game changes and just the brand in itself, it just spread so wide and it's worldwide and it'll never die in my eyes. Like Wu-Tang.
I know you had the chance to meet a few of them. What was that experience like?
Oh my God, beautiful. It's so crazy. I met Raekwon before I even, this was my first acting role. So, you know,
Nice.
I got to act and rap in my first acting role, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
But the first time I ever met Raekwon was at a shoot with the brand called LRG. And he was there, he was real laid back, rolled up every 5 minutes. And like, when I spoke to him, it was like, you know, we had a good vibe. And he told me I reminded him of a young RZA, which was so, it's crazy to me. Like, I don't know what, but that was an honor to, you know, and that's like the head of the crew. And then later I met RZA at a movie audition. Yeah, so.
Are you going to go to the amusement park, though?
I would love to go to the amusement park. I mean, I'm sure it'll take years to make. I would love to take my kids there when I have them. I mean, you know, like, this is a big brand. So for hip hop to take it that far is just,
Yeah.
it makes me very happy.
So if this amusement park actually happens, Wu-Tang would be the first hip-hop group with a theme park. Is this a milestone for hip-hop?
It is a milestone, but I think we also have to realize how much Wu-Tang did in the beginning already. They set many precedents in the beginning. Like you said before, they already had their branding intact when they first started. They had comic books, they had Wu-Wear. So they were doing all those pivots that artists usually do now 20 years ago. I think they had the foresight to get that branding down packed in the advent that music would not be the marketable product anymore. So they were doing that from jump. And I think this is just an addendum to their long history of transcending music.
And being visionaries.
Yeah.
So Tony, favorite Wu track?
Triumphant. Triumphant is the joint. I may have to go. Cream is lit too.
That's mine.
It's so many classic joints. You know, Wu-Tang is for the children.
Yes.
And so, of course, they will have the amusement park. I do have an issue with this, though.
Tell me.
How come other cultures respect and revere us more than we love and respect and revere ourselves? Like, how come this has to be in South Korea? I'm not going to South Korea.
You never know.
I don't want to go to South Korea. I would go before I go to North Korea, but you know what I mean? But I don't, wait, which one is the bad Korea?
Right.
Which one is the bad one? Which one was Kim
Korea's
Jong? Oh,
communist,
okay.
yes.
I'm staying away from North Korea. South Korea, I doubt I'm going there. How come it's not in Long Island, somewhere that I can actually travel to? And it's something that, like, in all seriousness, I noticed that our older stars or legends, if you want to call them, they'll go overseas. I interviewed the Roots, and they said we make more money overseas than we do here in America.
Yeah.
Like they'll go to London or they'll go wherever on European tours and clean up. Like Coolio right now could go overseas and make money. You know what I mean? Like, but we don't look at people like that as being stars now. And it's weird to me that when you go to other cultures, they highlight our stars. And we won't even do that here.
I be at the point where I don't care what America thinks. I feel like America is just so out of the loop when it comes to like being connected to like real authentic things. I feel like we've been fed for so many years, like television, the word television. I always think about that, like you're telling me my vision. Like I'm looking at something and I'm being influenced for my life and I'm supposed to live my life this way. But it's like, nah, like we taking that back.
Facts.
We taking that back. So it's like other places understand that more. I feel like I've been to London. Like I put out a song a month ago. They knew all the lyrics to the song, like a different appreciation. I feel like we're just trained so different. Like different places are just so much like iller than us, man.
I
I don't care what America think, man.
I agree.
We gotta get our sauce, man. We gotta
Facts.
really start thinking for ourselves and just like, yeah, make a change.
But that's what Wu's all about, doing your own thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, American pop culture has always informed and influenced the rest of the world in that regard. I don't think we'd be remiss to mention that the rest of the world does not pay close attention to American music, American cultural productions, music, movies, art, right? America tends to be late when it comes to international things. Look at the way Afrobeats took 10 years to pop here. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of other cultures and other countries investing in our older cultural productions, it's not so much weird as it is common because they're taking a more studied approach. And when you take a studied approach to something, what do? You look back at the history. So this is why older generations of hip hop tend to do well when they tour Europe, when they tour Asia. So I think Wu-Tang had the foresight to say, hey, we gotta make some money.
But I disagree with your initial point, though, because look at Rolling Stones. Look at all of these older white bands still get play here in America, right? Like Mick Jagger is 80 years old, still thrusting his hip around and that nasty tongue,
It's a different
but he can
era.
still. That's my point.
And people are coming out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, but in rock and roll, white folks who done it in the 60s still are popping here, whereas in hip hop, you're old and you're whack. That's here in America. So it's not necessarily just that it's a studied approach because they're still legends to younger people, whereas in hip hop, you're old and whack. Even other artists, if you hear Nelly talking about, Nelly was beefing with KRS-One. Shout out to Nelly.
Yeah.
But Nelly called him whack. And I'm like, that's KRS-One. How do you diss the legend? Like, Nelly, you kind of got to just be like, okay, that's the OG. I ain't going to argue with you. We just don't respect even in the Wu-Tang, some of them old dudes is broke. Like, outside of like Meth and Ray and like the main, 36 people in Wu-Tang. Not all of them are getting money. I think one of the dudes is driving a cab, and there's nothing wrong with driving a cab. I'm not trying to play him. I'm just saying we do not, particularly in hip-hop, honor our legends here in America. They have to go other places to get their roses.
It is very specific to hip hop in that the framework of hip hop is what? It's a young person's game, right? I don't think that we found a way to recalibrate how we reconcile youth culture and respecting older generations. You know what I'm saying? So what you're saying is correct. Rock and roll has a different effect when it comes to the legends and the older generations. Hip hop has a different effect. And it's not to say that it's across the board. Look at the resurgence of Wu-Tang. That's garnering
But that's
respect.
a lot of white people. Let's be real. It's like when you look at TV and the people who rock with them, it's Seth Rogen, it's Jonah Hill. It's mainly white folks that's rocking the Wu-Tang and keeping them really popping, yo. It's mainly white people who are listening to, like Max Kellerman knows De La Soul. How many young black people know De La Soul?
Well,
That's one
white
of my
people
favorite
tend
groups.
to take a studied approach because they are inherently outside of that culture.
So what that means is white people taking a studied approach and foreigners are taking a studied approach. That means black folks need to start studying because it's looking real bad.
And there's a lot to learn from the Wu.
Wu-Tang's for the kids.
Yes. Well, the Wu-Tang Clan was established in 1992. They've been legends for a long time, and it looks like they are still bringing the pain after all these years. So that's all for today. I want to thank my guests, Tony, Ivie, and Dyme-A-Duzin for joining us and sharing their candid commentary. And as always, thank you for watching. I'm Marlie. See you next time.